Welcome back to the channel. If you've been here before, welcome. If you're new here, today I am diving into the world of Hyrox, which is a unique kind of hybrid race that's taking the world by storm. I've never heard of it, and then all of a sudden I can't unsee it because it is everywhere. So we're going to break everything down, going to go over what it is, how it differs from things, why it's so popular right now, what you need to train for it. I'm training for my first one in March in Washington, D.C., training from my home gym, and we're going to get into all of the details, and we're also going to get into why I think it is going to be a fad, and in a few years from now, there will be something else to replace it. All right, let's get started. So what is Hyrox? Hyrox is a indoor fitness competition designed to test both your strength and endurance. It's an 8-kilometer run split into 1-kilometer segments with a functional workout station between each kilometer. So the stations are going to be kind of like stations. The stations are sled pulls, farmer's carries, wall balls. You have the skier, the rower, things like that. So it's the combination of running meets functional fitness. Initially, when people see it, they're like, oh, that's CrossFit. And no, it is not CrossFit. So let's kind of compare the two and see why they are not the same. Yes, they are both high intensity, but there are some very key differences. So CrossFit prioritizes variety with constantly changing workouts paired with Olympic lifting. Hyrox, it is standardized. You're going to have every single race be the same. It's going to be the same movements on the same machines in the same order. The duration, CrossFit workouts are typically shorter, whereas Hyrox is going to take, the elite world athletes take like 55 minutes, and it could go all the way to, the open, if you're just going to do it for enjoyment, 2 hours. In short, CrossFit is all about adaptability, where Hyrox is about consistency and endurance. Being the exercise nerd that I am, let's go into what are the physiological needs that someone needs to have in order to be a Hyrox athlete. And first and foremost, you're going to have aerobic capacity because you need to be able to sustain a high aerobic function for an extended period of time, right? We're talking at least an hour if you're an elite. You need to have anaerobic endurance. So you're going to need to have that anaerobic explosiveness, the capacity to do the sled pushes and the burpee broad jumps. You're going to have muscular strength, right? Because the sleds are heavy. You have to push and pull a very heavy sled. So you're going to have muscular strength. And then mental toughness. You need to have that grit to push through fatigue, to push yourself, to not stop, to complete the whole entire race. How does one train for the Hyrox? Well, I'm going to tell you how I am training for the Hyrox. First of all, you need to run. If you want to get better at running, what do? You run. Long, slow runs. I'm doing tempo runs. I'm doing intervals. I'm running. Secondly, strength. I need to get strong because I need to handle those heavy weights for the sleds, for the pushing and pulling. Squats and deadlifts are where I'm at. Functional movements. I need to be able to do specific movements like wall balls and lunges and a ski erg. So I'm practicing with those. Combination workouts. I have been pairing aerobic running or aerobic biking with wall balls or the farmer carries so I could get used to those race-like events. Some of the key areas I'm going to be focusing on for my first Hyrox event is going to be pacing. I think as excited as I'm going to be at the start of this race and want to go. You cannot start out of the gate on a sprint. The thing is, when we're talking about the Hyrox, you need to be able to sustain a moderately high heart rate for an extended period of time. If you start too fast, too soon, your heart rate's going to spike and you're not going to be able to bring it down. There are some factors that come into play. If you think about it, right, we have this thing called cardiac drift, which the longer you're doing an exercise, the higher your heart rate is going to drift. It's just your cardiac system is going to drift up. Secondly, you have to consider that you're going to be sweating. It's an indoor event with lots of people, so everybody's producing heat. When you sweat, you're losing blood volume. When you lose blood volume, your blood pressure goes up. Your heart rate has to go up in order to pump less blood volume. So you have to take into consideration that there's going to be other physiological events that are happening to your body as you're going through the entire event that are going to spike your heart rate. So you need to go slower out of the gate, warm up, and then once you get through it, which we'll talk about that, once you get, over halfway, then you can start picking up the pace. So pacing is going to be the number one strategy here. Secondly, grip strength. I have never trained grip strength, but you know that I'm in my garage since I signed up for this, strengthening my grip, because you need to have those for the farmer's carries, for sled pulls. I need to be able to hold on to things and have a firm grip. I've been watching so many tapes and videos of other females doing the Hyrox, and their grip is giving out. So that's not going to be me. Incorporate grip strength. Mobility. I do yoga. I need to be able to reduce the risk of injury and able to move fluidly without any issues through all these functional movements. And recovery. You have to recover. It's not about train. It's about train, recover. That recovery is just important as you're training. It's giving your body the ability to incorporate all those things you just did. So you just did a running session and a heavy leg session. You can't go the next day and do another heavy leg session, right? Your body hasn't had time to adjust and repair and rebuild to be stronger for the next one. So recovery. Now let's get into the nitty gritty breaking down of the Hyrox events. You have the ski erg, the sled push, the sled pull, burpee broad jumps, the row erg, the farmer's carry, sandbag lunges, and wall balls. So here's a few little things that I have written down for myself to focus on to execute each movement. So the ski erg, efficient strokes. You're going to use your core and your hips and your legs, not just your arms. One thing, when we talk about the ski erg and wall balls, that needs to be taken into consideration is that when your arms are above your head, so when you're reaching for that ski erg to bring it down, or you're pushing that wall ball into the target up 9-10 feet above you, you have to consider that moment your arms go above your heart rate picks up because of two possible reasons. One is it engages your sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight. It tells your heart, like, oh, our arms are above our head. We have to pick up that pace to be able to pump blood against gravity. So given that you know that these are going to spike your heart rate even more, you need to be aware of that so that if you start getting out of breath, maybe in between, you put your arms down, you take 3 breaths, and you reset. Breathe with the movement. Inhale, exhale, find the rhythm. So sled push, low and slow. The best way that I find that I push the sled is to get my body over the sled, my center of mass over the weight of the sled, and push low and slow. Just grind it out, drive deep. Sled pull, you're going to brace your core. You have to use hip extension to pull it back and then step back as you're in your little box. Okay, the burpee broad jumps. I haven't heard anything good about this, but it's about pacing yourself. Everybody is using the step up method. So when you do the burpee, instead of jumping your feet to your hands, you're stepping each leg up, which is going to save you a little bit of energy. It's going to control your heart rate and give you the ability to continually be consistent instead of burning yourself out. We have the farmer's carry. That's just grip. Get a good grip. You could use the hook grip if you need to. Good posture and keep moving, just one foot in front of the other. After the burpee broad jump, you have the row erg, which is a chance for you to sit down for a minute. There's a few things to consider when you're rowing. It's all these are full body movements, but maybe you can do what I do, and I'll share exactly what I do. So when I'm on the row, I'll do some strokes where I'm really engaging the back and lats, 5 to 8 strokes. And once I feel those muscles are being worked, then I switch to driving with my quads, driving with my hamstrings. I use that mind-muscle connection I've developed with yoga to go through my body and keep switching the muscle groups so no one area gets over fatigued. Using that little tip right there, think about it. You're going to be doing sandbag lunges as your 7th station and then wall balls at your 8th station. Wall balls are going to blow out your quads. It's just going to happen. It's going to be death to your quads. When you're doing sandbag lunges, maybe you take longer steps with a more vertical shin to engage your glutes and your hamstrings, to tax those muscles so that your quads will be somewhat fresh for the 100 wall balls that you have to do. Let's talk about efficiency at each station. When I'm talking about efficiency, I am simply stating how to shave off a few seconds at each station. 1, don't waste time not knowing where you're going. If you don't have the events memorized, write it on the palm of your hand in some ink so you could look down and be like, okay, that's my next, this is the next one I'm looking for. 2, control your breathing. Learn how to breathe laterally, right? Expand the diaphragm, expand the rib cage, the intercostals, and find the rhythm. Find your breathing rhythm when you run. Find your inhale, exhale when you're doing every single station. Practice that at home while you're training and then incorporate it on race day. Have a strategy. So as I train, I am thinking about what I'm capable of and then breaking each of those into chunks. I know that the row erg and the ski erg are going to be fine for me, even though they're not my favorite events. I have the height, I'm 5'10", which will give me an advantage. Those, I have just a long pull. I'm not worried about those. But things like wall balls and burpee broad jumps, those wipe me out. So when I'm practicing in my garage, I'm breaking them into manageable chunks. Maybe it's 15 reps for the wall balls. Maybe I do sets of 10. Maybe I do a big set of 20, and then I go to sets of 10. I'm practicing this stuff. So also, you should do the same thing. Practice a strategy. And lastly, make sure you warm up before the race. A good, solid warm-up. Mobilize everything, get the blood flowing, spike your heart rate a little bit. For me, I have asthma. I've found through experience in my entire life that I induce an asthma attack in my warm-up. I push it, I wheeze, I use my emergency inhaler, I wait 15 minutes, and then I'm good. My lungs are like, okay, we're open, we're ready. So that's a strategy that I already know that I have to incorporate in my warm-up if I'm to conquer the race on the day of the event. Let's deep dive into a little bit of science here for a minute about tackling the different metabolic pathways or how your body is going to use energy during the event and then how to fuel for it. We know that Hyrox is an endurance event. Endurance means aerobic. Aerobic means you're going to have to need oxygen. That metabolic pathway that your body uses is going to use fat as fuel. You don't have to worry. That doesn't mean eat fats right before the event. It means that whatever fat you have on your body is going to be a good fuel source for your body to use after it kicks into its oxidative pathway. We talk about anaerobic glycolysis. This is for those short bursts of when you're at the station and you need that quick burst of power. That's when you're going to be using those carbs and glucose and simple sugars to fuel those. That's what's floating around in your bloodstream already, or you do store some in your muscle and your liver. So your body's going to use those. So just make sure the day of the event, you've had some carbs leading up to it, so you have good full storages of that source of energy. And then lastly, of course, for the initial, you have to have that ATP system, which, is used during the initial of any exercises, the first 6 to 10 seconds. It's that rapid use of the, creatine phosphate system that's in your blood. I definitely recommend loading with creatine. If you don't already take creatine, why not? I take creatine every single day. That will definitely give you a little bit of an advantage. And if you don't know where to get creatine, Metabolic Nutrition, I'll put the link. You get 20% off, but it's no digestive upset or anything like that. Let's go into pacing and strategy. What am I thinking? How am I going to handle this? So this is what I'm thinking. This is what I have written down. Is that my first 1 to 4 kilometers, my 1 to 4 stations, steady, sustainable pace. Keeping my heart rate in check. I'm going to wear a heart rate monitor, on cruise control. Kilometers 5 through 6, stations 5 through 6. My plan is to pick it up a little bit. Let's say I'm at RPE 7 on the first 4 stations. I'm going to pick it up 7.5, 8, right? No redlining, but I'm going to pick it up where it's a pace where I'm uncomfortable, but I'm like, okay, mind over matter, grit through this. And then station 7 and 8 is when I just empty the tank. I'm going to the home stretch. Station 8, I'm going to redline it. I am going to push my limit. So that's my game plan for all 8 stations and how I plan to attack. I also plan on picking up the pace at each station and then continuing my breathing rhythm during the run. So I'm going to use the run as an active recovery to link my movement, my steps with my breath so that I can be prepared for the next station that's going to be coming around the corner. Let's dig deeper into a couple more little secret strategies that I'm going to share with you for each event. The ski erg. My strategy is having 1 or 2 big pulls and then 2 smaller pulls. 1 or 2 big pulls, 2 smaller pulls. As soon as my arms go above my head, my heart rate spikes. I have height to my advantage. I can do some 2 big pulls and then some 2 smaller pulls so that I can control that heart rate spike in the beginning. Sled push. I'm just going to break it into chunks. I've been practicing with my sled. I'm going to use recovery period. So push until I'm almost at my limit. Pause. Take 3 deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. As soon as I take that 3rd breath, I'm pushing again. Sled pull, hand over hand technique. Hip extension, right? Rope management. If you need to practice, as I said, using different muscle groups through each station, right? Rotate through, cycle through. It will help you with muscle fatigue and help you mentally to just keep cycling through and be like, wow, I'm not actually burning anything out. I just keep cycling through, giving my body those few seconds on an area of muscle to rest and recover. The row erg. For me, for the rowing, I absolutely hate rowing. To make sure that I have powerful pulls, right? I practiced rowing last night and I practiced 5 so big pulls with my upper body. And then I let my upper body just kind of take a light switch, flip off a little bit, like a dimmer. I dimmed the upper body down and I just started driving through my legs. And remember, you can push through your heels more, and that might for you, because I know for me, it activates more hamstrings and glutes. And then I switch to my toes, pushing through my toes, which is going to, for me, I feel it more in my quads. And I just rotate through these so I'm never overly fatigued. Farmer's carry. One of the things you could do to practice, which is what I do, is switch grips. Practice different grips. Find what works for you. Again, so you're not overly fatiguing one of the muscles. And don't wait until race day to do this. I watched another video of a girl. She switched grips and she was, she was booking it, and she pulled something in her forearm and wasn't able to complete the farmer's carry because she literally had no grip. So don't try anything new on race day. Practice and then apply what you practice. Sandbag lunges. Shorter steps is quad based, longer steps with a vertical shin, and you're more bent over your thigh is going to be glutes and hamstrings. And lastly, wall balls. Keep your elbows close to your body and underneath. You don't want them out to here. Out to here, it's going to waste energy. Your upper body, your shoulders, and your traps are going to be burned the hell out. Okay, let's go over some lesser known aspects of Hyrox that could add some value or some insight to your training and to your love of the race. 1, Hyrox is standardized worldwide, which means you can compare yourself to everybody else globally. As I said, every event, every station, everything is the same. So the pretty cool is that it's standardized. You can see where you rank. And I did do some research and I found that taller people tend to be more advantageous at Hyrox than CrossFit. And CrossFit seems to have the shorter people excel. That is given the exercises that they chose. Review the tapes. As I get into this Hyrox training, I have watched so many people's videos because I've never done it, but it's in football, you review the practice tapes, review tapes, see what other athletes are doing, and then you make note of it and try it in your own training. See what works for them, see what they recommend, see what they don't recommend. Some common mistakes that I have noted are people don't practice their transitions from running to the events. They have lag time. They don't realize that maybe their legs are completely full of lactic acid and they feel like cement blocks. Practice going from running to an event to running to an event. Don't go out too fast. And we already touched on this, so we're going to just briefly mention it. Start slower than you think. And lastly is spending too much time at water stations. The elite athletes, I've noticed they don't wear any kind of Camelback or water source or eat any food. They're finishing the race in under an hour. So for them, they might not need to replenish. If you're a super lean athlete or you're someone who burns through fuel really quick, you might want to have something in your pocket or in a belt bag, some kind of fuel source. Because once you start the race, and you have a friend there or a spectator or your husband and your wife, they can't pass you a pack of sport beans or gels or goos. You have to have it on yourself. You are someone who goes on trail runs and you're used to carrying water on you, then carry water on you. That might be more efficient for you than trying to go through the water station, drink some water. Maybe for you, having the Camelback and just cruising along is how you do it. I'm gonna say for me, I'm thinking that's how I'm gonna do it because I've always been used to having the Camelback, the water bladder on me in the military, in my hiking, in my adventure runs outside. I like having my own water source. Okay, let's quickly discuss gear optimization. You're gonna wanna wear running shoes, but you can't wear those running shoes that are like moon shoes with the super bouncy soles that are, like you're gonna be on the moon and bounce around, because that's not gonna give you traction. You're gonna need traction for the sled pull and the sled push and other events. So you need to find kind of a cross-training type of shoe. Secondly, make sure everything you wear is comfortable. You're not gonna get any hot spots. If you've known to get hot spots in certain areas, try some moleskin or Band-Aids or whatever. After reviewing some of the tapes, some of the gear optimization that I'm going to start using in my training is some people tape their thumbs. Other people kind of tape a little bit of their fingers to have protection for that grip strength. I've seen some athletes put some sports tape around their elbows so that when they're pushing the sled, it's not, pinching their skin or anything like that. So again, review the tapes, watch what other people are doing, and test it out yourself. And then, as I said, gear optimization, make sure you wear breathable clothes, something with moisture wicking because you're indoors and everybody says it gets really hot. Let's talk mental strategies. Number one, do some visualization. Visualize yourself going through it. Visualize yourself going through each of the events, each of the stations, and how it's going to feel, how you want to look, how you want to feel, how you want to pace yourself, right? Rehearsing that can definitely give you a mental advantage to help you stay calm, and even maybe come up with some worst case and best case scenarios, go through those so that if something does happen, you are 100% prepared. Next, for me, I'm huge into grit. Grit is just kind of passion and perseverance over a long period of time for success and the outcome goal. So remember why you're there. Remember it's not going to last forever, and that your brain is going to give out before your body does. So when it does suck, when you think I can't go anymore, find something to celebrate. Go to your happy place. What makes you happy? For me, I think about my horse captain. I think about my friends. I think about my dog. I just think of things that I love doing, and it instantly makes me smile, which then get a shot of dopamine and I'm ready to keep going. So that is another huge tip. Write it down. When it sucks, find something to celebrate and smile. Lastly, I want to touch on why I think Hyrox is just a fad. If you've been around the fitness industry long enough, like I have, I've been around it for forever, you remember things come, right? You have P90X. You remember when going to spin classes, it was huge. I remember my mom went all the time, and things come and go. Fitness boot camps. I remember when boot camps were huge. I don't feel like they're as big anymore. There's all kinds of Pilates DVDs and the shake weight. There's so many fads in fitness. But yeah, remember mud runs? Mud runs back in the 2012, 2010 to 15 area. You had Tough Mudder and Spartan. Those were huge. People went nuts for that, and it's not as big anymore. I feel like Hyrox is going to be this. The only one that I feel like has been around a really long time is running, of course, and CrossFit. CrossFit's been around a long time, but that's because it's always changing. And in my opinion, Hyrox being standardized, the same thing, people are going to get bored. Remember, most people's attention span are shorter than that of a goldfish. So I feel like people are going to get bored. You do a couple of them and then you're like, okay, I want to try something else. So I feel as though eventually Hyrox will change their stations, or everything will come to an evolution and something else will come in its place. I'm excited to do Hyrox now because I teach this stuff. I live this stuff. So it's important for me to experience it and then speak on it. And I want to try this out before it's gone, because things like this don't tend to last around a long time. Get on it while you can. Enjoy the experience. Enjoy the training for it. Enjoy the race day, right? Be present in the moment, because in a couple more years, something else will come about. Lastly, very lastly, if you're a hybrid athlete and you train at home, I want to mention that there will be a hybrid competition in Louisville, Kentucky at Home Gym Con. It's going to be part of the Garage Gym Games. in June 27th and 28th. So if you want to have some fun, you can win cash prizes and free gym equipment. There's going to be a link down below. Check it out. Sign up. It's, again, in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm the meet director of it, the hybrid home gym competition game. It's going to be awesome. I hope to see you guys there. That was my Hyrox guide to Ashley's training and mindset in a nutshell. If you're like me and you're a first timer or you have done this many times, I would love to hear your thoughts, what you're nervous about, any tips, tricks, comments, experience. Please let me know below. If you found this video helpful, let me know. If you would like to hear anything more, let me know. Hit that like button, subscribe, send this to a friend. And if anybody's doing the Washington, D.C. Hyrox in March, just let me know below so that we can meet up and experience this together. Thank you again, and I will see you guys next time.